If you are tired of being told to just lose weight, get back on the pill, or deal with missing periods, welcome. You are finally in the right room to get the answers you've been looking for. I'm Dr. Angela Potter, and this is the PCOS Lab. Together, we find the root causes to help your body work as it's supposed to and restore your cycles from the inside out. Let's head into the lab. Leisha, hi. Welcome to the podcast. I am thrilled to have you here today.
I'm so excited to be here. This is going to be so fun.
Great. What I would love to get started with is, can you tell the listener what they are going to walk away with when they listen to everything that you're going to talk about today?
Yeah, so I love that question. That's a great place to start. We are going to be really diving into why breakfast is one of, honestly, it's the key, I think, to balancing your hormones, because if you're skipping breakfast or doing it wrong, you are going to be causing more chaos in your body. And so it's always the first thing I start with. There's a very specific way that I recommend eating breakfast and the why behind it. So we're going to talk about that so that you can walk away feeling more confident in your breakfast. And what that really does is it gives you better energy throughout the day, better moods, less anxiety, and overall, your stress hormones start to balance out so your sex hormones can balance. And so breakfast really is that important.
I love that. I am so ready to dive in with you because I think, for the person listening, first you were saying, well, you need to be eating breakfast for this stuff, but you need to be eating breakfast correctly. So it's like, that's like a bell ringing. Oh my gosh, if I'm eating breakfast, am I actually eating the correct things in order to support hormone balance? So let's start. I would love to hear you talk about even more about why is breakfast so important and how that intertwines with our hormones for the whole rest of the day.
Yeah. So when we did an interview on my podcast recently, one of the things that really stood out to me is that you say really a very similar phrase to what I say, and we're talking about safety in the body as essentially like the key to hormone balance, to balancing PCOS, to fertility. And it's so, so true and so important. So breakfast is, I believe, one of the most powerful, and I say powerful because it's doable for really, it really is doable for everyone to fix our breakfast. We can figure it out. We can make it work. Whether, most of the women that I'm sure we both work with, but definitely that I work with, we have too much on our plates most of the time. In the mornings is a really busy time, right? You've got all the things going on. You're running the kids around, or they're running you around, or whatever it is. There's a lot going on, right, in the morning. And so it is the easiest thing to do would be to absolutely just skip breakfast and just be like, I'm not going to eat. If you have done that for a while, your appetite will just decrease, where you're like, oh, I'm just not a breakfast person. I don't have an appetite in the morning. I don't really need breakfast. And then sometimes you might make yourself feel good by being like, oh, I'm intermittent fasting. Like, that's probably healthy. It sounds good, right? And so a lot of times what I see is that we have a really busy morning. So you wake up, maybe you do have a little bit of like a quiet morning routine that you're able to do, but then you hit the ground running typically. And what that tells your body is that you need a lot of energy, right? That there's a lot of energy going out consistently. And I think that almost all of us could relate to that. Your body probably has been getting that signal that there's a lot of energy going out. So what your body needs for safety is it also needs to get a signal that it has enough energy coming in to be able to match that output. Because your body loves you, because your body is for you, it's always trying to keep you safe. And so if your body is hearing the signal, lots of energy going out, not a lot coming in, maybe none coming in, maybe coffee coming in, which feels like energy, but it's really not. It's just burning you out. Then you get that your body is going to just be working for you, and it's going to say, okay, not a lot coming in, lots going out, hit the brakes on everything we can hit the brakes on. We just can't put out as much as we are trying to put out. And so it's going to slow down your metabolism. It's going to slow down your thyroid. It's going to slow down your digestive function. And even if you're really in a place where your body's getting these signals a lot, it's going to slow down things like your immune function. It's definitely going to slow down your sex drive, your libido. It's going to slow down really anything that's not necessary to just keep you alive and just to keep you surviving. And so if you feel that at a deep soul level, you're like, yeah, I'm just surviving. Like, I feel like I'm just hanging on by a thread every day. It's both. Okay. It's going to be your lifestyle. It's going to be all the things you're asking of yourself, but it's also just not having enough coming in. And so if you can switch that signaling in your brain and you can start to tell your brain every single day that things are safe, that I have enough energy coming in to meet this output first thing in the morning. That's one of the big times your body is looking for that input. Then your body's going to start saying, I have enough energy to run the kids around and get work started and do the laundry and make a little hormones while we're at it. Like I can actually put some energy towards ovulation. I can put some energy towards hair growth. I can put some energy towards my skin, having renewed cells. Like those are the kind of things that your body's like, that's not important if you're just surviving. Okay. So fertility is a huge one. Your body will protect you by shutting down every aspect of fertility it can to keep you safe because it's a huge energy expenditure. And so that's why this matters so much is getting those signals of safety in first thing in the morning so that your body can say, hey, I have what I need to support the thyroid and the metabolism in the gut. If your gut's stopped up, this could be why.
Yeah, it's amazing how it's just with one meal that actually instigates this whole cascade forward. And, you've alluded to this a little bit, but sure, on a daily basis, when you're not eating breakfast, it can set you up for feeling a blood sugar crash later in the day, or maybe feeling super hungry by lunchtime or something. But what about like the long-term repercussions? Hi. How about the long-term repercussions of not having breakfast on a daily basis?
Yeah. So that's really where, if you just have one day of no breakfast, your body's not going to be like, don't really need to use your thyroid anymore, right? That's not going to
Hmm.
be the case. But it's the chronic not eating enough, being stressed out in the morning, not giving your body those signals of safety. So, what I see chronically in not eating breakfast for sure, but also just this under eating that many of us do. If I'm going to give you my perspective, when women come to me, healthy, strong, smart women who know how to take care of their bodies, who are working hard to take care of their bodies, they're eating good food. They have non toxic products in their house. They're probably working out. They're doing lots of good things for themselves, but they're like, I still feel like I'm hanging by a thread. I'm burned out. My PMS mood swings are a mess. My fertility is not there. Like all of these things, right? But I'm doing everything right. Well, one of the biggest things that we probably have, had ingrained in our brains over time is that eating more is not better, right? Eating less is better because eating less makes you skinnier, which makes you more valuable, right? And
Hmm.
that's what we've heard growing up. And
Yeah,
so
quotation
what I
marks around that,
see
right?
in these women who are and a lot of us have like kind of overcome that to some extent. We're like, okay, I don't believe this really at like a logical level anymore, but somehow it's still probably in there. And we have these beliefs of like these are pretty high achieving women. And so it's like, I kind of just think that the rules don't apply to me in some sense, right? Like, yes, I know I should technically be eating lunch, but I'm too busy. So I'll probably be fine. Like I'm tough kind of thing, right? And so what I
Yeah.
usually see is not enough breakfast or not a solid breakfast. And then lunch could be a little bit sketchy too. Whether it's on purpose, not on purpose sketchy, but like maybe it is like I'm trying to eat chicken and salad and like trying to like eat healthy, but also have it be, like lower calorie or like that kind of thing. This is where over time, going back to your actual question, over time, our bodies are getting a lot of signals that there's really not quite enough there. Whether it's not enough nutrients or not enough calories or not a good balance of macronutrients, this over time absolutely causes blood sugar issues in the moment. That's huge. Blood sugar is huge because when you're not getting enough breakfast, you're drinking some coffee, your body gives yourself a cortisol spike, which feels great sometimes in the moment. Sometimes it feels terrible in the moment, depending on what you're used to and the moment that you're in. But you're going to hit that gas in your car. There's nothing in the tank, but you're just flooring through on whatever tiny little bit is left with your caffeine. And then you hit mid morning and you're like, meh, I don't feel so good. I'm a little tired and cranky. I'm going to have a little something, more coffee, snack, carbs, something. And then you get to lunch and you're still not really eating like solid lunch. And then almost everyone, to be honest, does a great job with dinner. There's most people have a great dinner, but that's too late. Like it's too late in the day to finally be getting your first like solid protein and carb and sit down meal. That's too late to tell your body that the day is safe when it's 6 p.m. And so what I see over time is that the stress signals, the under eating / undernourishing, depending on exactly what it looks like, is telling your body conserve. And so it conserves everywhere it can. It conserves with gut function. You start to have this kind of low level of constipation, or maybe you've always had constipation, which messes with your hormone detox, which messes with your inflammation in your body. You start to have a lot of blood sugar issues over time. You're used to having these blood sugar ups and downs. And I always like to say, like, when you have a big blood sugar up and down, your blood sugar is crashing on a regular basis. This is a true, actual emergency in your body. Your brain knows this. True emergency. You actually will die if your blood sugar goes too low. And so your body knows that. It will throw every bit of energy it has to get your blood sugar back up, which looks like more cortisol coming in to tell your liver to release glycogen. Hopefully you have the glycogen stores in your liver from eating some, good carbs throughout the day. If you don't, there's an emergency system to help break things down in your body to make more glucose, because you have to have glucose in your bloodstream to keep your brain alive. And so your body will do whatever it takes to get there. Also, that's very stressful. It's very stressful for your body. You might feel it, you might not, to be honest, because you might be used to it. But what you could feel is like hangry, cold and clammy, shaky, a little dizzy, sometimes a little bit nauseous, or just like really anxious. Those are all feelings that your blood sugar is going through this big emergency. And then in most of us, it can come back up and you need to eat something, but you're still like, you're okay. And you keep going through this process, right? So that in and of itself, your body keeps doing that over and over. It tells your body even more things are not safe. And so we've got to conserve. And so that looks like slowing down the metabolism, slowing down the thyroid, slowing down the gut. And over time, this means that we're not clearing cortisol very well. It means we're not clearing. And even like when we're slowing down the metabolism, to be clear, we're slowing down detoxification, we're slowing down the liver function. So all of these things add up and turn into hormone imbalances, because you're not going to be able to make hormones well, because your body says, hey, listen, you don't need to be making hormones right now. You're a mess. You don't need a baby. The other side of it is you're not detoxing the hormones well. So whatever you are making, because you'll make some, might not be optimal, but you'll make some, then you're not able to detox it. It gets stuck in your gut. Your liver is not optimized. So then you're going to have symptoms like PMS, mood swings, painful periods, heavy periods, breast tenderness, all of these different kind of hormone symptoms. And it's just a downstream effect of your body not having safety throughout the day.
Yeah, it's a lot that you just unpacked there.
It's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And, I think it's so important for people, because we do still have this underlying current in our medical information just about like low calorie is better. And it takes some you have to actually make changes to say, okay, actually more food is better, because that keeps your body away from that emergency. And I'm so glad you brought that up, that low blood sugar is truly an emergency to the body. And I like to remind people as well that when your blood sugar has fallen, the only thing that your body wants is sugar, because it has to keep your brain alive, and it needs that sugar in order to raise the blood sugar levels. So, sugar cravings are a big thing. And of course, there's a lot of different reasons for sugar cravings. But for people who are wondering, like, why am I just craving sugar all the time? This could be one aspect of it. And it could feel a little different to be like, oh, actually, if I eat a little bit more at my meals, if I have actually add in another meal during my day, that's going to how I feel about sugar. It's not that sugar is bad, but again, for people who are like, I need it, I need it, I need it, it's very common for this to be an underlying reason for that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like I will just stress that when you set yourself up in the morning with a solid breakfast, it's going to support your blood sugar and in return support your mood and your gut and your thyroid and all of those things. Or after effect is all of those things. But when you set yourself up with a good breakfast, then your body is able to manage your blood sugar better all day long. Now, if you just eat breakfast and then do nothing else good all day long and you don't eat any other food, you're going to be in a hole. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you get your breakfast right. You're not going to have those same cravings mid-morning. You're not going to have so much trouble sticking to what you were planning to eat for lunch. You're not going to be crashing mid-afternoon as much, because you're setting yourself up with the good dominoes where you're hitting one domino and then the next ones are easier to knock down throughout your day to meet your goals. And so that's really why I stress breakfast so much, because it is so important and it sets you up to do a better job at lunch, because you're not like dying and starving, right? You're going to be like,
Right.
oh, okay, like I'm not just running around like eating my kids' leftovers and then the emergency is over and then I forget to eat the rest of my lunch, because you're in more of a stable place to make yourself lunch without just having to eat their leftovers because you're starving.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it takes some time for that to change, to see that difference in like mood and energy levels, particularly. So this is a really good foundation to remember like, okay, if I eat breakfast and set myself up for the rest of the day, and then I'll start seeing these longer term results from it and ultimately better ovulation and improved fertility as well.
Right. Well, and I see that the hormone benefits do take, 3, 4 months. I always work with my clients for a minimum of 4 months because that's about how long it takes to really see some of the big results that we want. Also, I love to start with breakfast because a week or 2, you're gonna be feeling some better. Like you're going to see results. And sometimes it's even the first day you do it, you're like, "Oh, look, like I can keep my head above the water at 3 PM." Maybe not the first day, right? I'm not ever here to tell you there's a quick fix, but breakfast, it's not a 6-month down the road you'll feel better thing. It's like within the first couple weeks, you're gonna notice a difference.
Right. So I talk to quite a few people who will say, well, I'm just not a breakfast person. And they don't get hungry till maybe 11-ish, mid-morning. And so they don't want to eat until then. But if they are struggling with ovulation, my population has PCOS and wants to get pregnant. So typically we're working on ovulation and regulating cycles. And so breakfast is certainly something that we're talking about. But from your perspective, what do you say to people who are kind of in that sense of, well, I'm not hungry until X time during mid morning or later?
Yeah. So I totally understand this because sometimes that's me, especially if I'm stressed. I do not want breakfast. Like I don't want breakfast. With that being said, typically, without giving a blanket, this is everyone, does have something to do with your thyroid and your metabolism function. And oftentimes that's suppressed because you haven't been giving it what it needs over time. Or it hasn't been, you haven't been getting the nutrients you need over time. And it's also a pattern, right? If you're used to not eating breakfast, your body's used to it, you're just not going to feel hungry. It's not going to waste energy on giving you hunger cues that you won't do anything with, right? And so you might not have those hunger cues right now. So I always like to start with something small. Some of my very favorite things to do are just like, I always say breakfast within 30 to 60 minutes of waking. Listen, for many of us, maybe you want to work out in the morning. Maybe you want to have quiet time before your kids get up. Maybe it's just a really busy morning and like you're not going to get a real breakfast within 30 to 60 minutes, but I want you to do something. So is that something I like to try for like 10 minimum grams of protein, 10 to 15, and like somewhere around the same grams of carbs. It can definitely be more, but like that's something that's usually doable. So that can look like a couple, like a little bit of yogurt and an apple. It can look like what I personally do is I really like if there's a really clean protein that I really like that is beef based and my body loves it. And so I'll do milk and protein powder as a warm hot chocolate. Listen, if you can drink hot chocolate in the morning, you're not finding the joy that you need to find. Like I love hot chocolate. I probably love it more than the average person, to be honest. But like if you're used to getting up and having a warm drink like that coffee, you're like, I like the ritual of it and I like that it's warm and cozy. Like you can switch to something like that that's not going to give you that cortisol spike, right? That's what I love. Like I'll get up and I'll make I have this little frother on my counter that I like pour the
Oh,
milk in and I put the
frothers.
powder and then maybe I'll like do something else for a minute or two and then it's warm and it's ready and it's delicious. And like I can take it with me if I'm going to go work out. And I do think some carbs are really important too. So like I'll do like half a banana with it. But if I'm going to work out, I can still do that on the way. My gym is 5 minutes away. I can get it done, right? If I'm going to go sit on the back porch and get my morning sun, take it with me. If I'm going to do something with my kids, drag it around the house with me. Like it's doable, right? So something that's doable for you. I'm not saying that has to be your thing, but like find something that's doable. For me, that really looks like at least 20 grams of protein. The milk has a little bit of carbs, the banana has a little bit of carbs. So I'm hitting probably even close to like 20 grams of protein, 20 grams of carbs right away first thing in the morning. And it's easy. So finding something like that you can do. And if you're like, I could just gag if you make me eat in the morning, then find something so easy, like 2 bites of apple. Start with something and you'll start to get used to it. When I was pregnant and I was like nauseous first thing in the morning, I would do a little bit of crackers and maybe a little bit of cheese, or I would do applesauce with collagen in it. That's pretty easy to get down if you get the right collagen that will dissolve in there. So I'm just here to tell you, like, find something that you can do. Don't just think you can't do anything. Like, find something you can do. So if you're used to not eating breakfast till 11, but you get up at 6:30, like by 7:30, you're eating something. You're drinking something that has some nutrition in it. And maybe it's just even like milk with a little bit of honey in it. that's okay. Like something like that, just something little that has a little protein and a little carbs, your body will start to adjust and you will get used to it, or your hunger signals will come back. And so, for example, say I'm up at 7, I do that right away within the first 30 minutes. I'm eating breakfast between 8:30 and 9, like what I would consider a real breakfast, which we can talk about when we're ready.
Okay, I love that. So for people, it's really about retraining hunger cues.
For sure.
It's not about their body is different. It's, under the surface, their bodies are still responding to the blood sugar swings are still happening, even if they're not experiencing the hunger cues. And so
For
it's
sure.
about retraining those so then they can, under the surface, that blood sugar can start to regulate.
Yeah, and another just like probably a little bit off topic, but something interesting
Mhm.
that I'm sure you have some thoughts on is, if you have a higher morning blood sugar, like your morning blood sugar is above 90 when you wake up, there's definitely underlying blood sugar dysregulation issues and insulin issues. And sometimes it's because at night you haven't had something solid enough soon enough before bed, and your liver is struggling with blood sugar regulation anyway. And so your blood sugar is dropping, say 3, 4, 5 in the morning. You've got that emergency response happening while you're sleeping. Maybe you wake up because that's happening as a huge
Right.
reason for like those early morning wakings, especially if you wake up feeling anxious. That blood sugar thing can happen even if you don't wake up. And then you've already fixed it. Your body has already had this emergency response and you've got this higher morning blood sugar potentially because of it. And that could be a factor in not being hungry in the morning too, because your body has already like fixed an emergency, shot some cortisol into you, and then you're like not really quite in that place that you should be when you wake up.
Yeah. I think we could do a whole podcast episode on blood sugar and insomnia
Yeah.
because
Yeah. That would be
that
great.
a lot of people don't quite understand that connection that even if you're waking up at 3 a.m., you might not feel that hunger, but it is your body's emergency response to wake you up and shoot adrenaline through you to get you to eat, even if you don't recognize it that it's
Hmm.
such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a huge piece of waking up.
Yes. Earlier on, you just really quickly mentioned intermittent fasting. Let's talk about somebody who is thinks that intermittent fasting is what's needed for their hormones. What do you see in that realm and how that could actually be impacting hormones, particularly when we're talking about the importance of breakfast?
Okay. So this is something that when I've researched, I've found that a lot of the benefits of intermittent fasting that people who say it's great will point to, most of those benefits were shown in men and or women who were postmenopause. So, with that being said, if we think about like this is kind of my backstory take on it. If we think about ancestrally, right? Because a lot of people will be like, well, ancestrally, we were hunter gatherers and maybe food was more scarce, and that is true. And when we think about the women in their childbearing years, this is who we're talking to right here. Girls who want to get pregnant, girls who are, have toddlers, right? These are the girls that we work with. And these are the women who we really wouldn't have been out gathering food as much or like hunting. Like we would have been back with the kids, right? And wherever the kids are, that's where the food is, right? And so
Mhm.
women in these age groups, unless you're in truly like a famine, you don't have food, like this is why our bodies have those emergency mechanisms. And those would have been turned on then if there really wasn't the food to have. But if we're looking at optimal, the women who did have food in the right seasons for their fertility, like they would have been back with the kids, they would have been back with the food. So the food would have been available to them. And I don't think that they would have been intermittent fasting. Like they would have been waking up in the morning. Like we're talking people who are living so much closer to nature than we do because they didn't have electricity for thousands of years, right? We're the only ones who have had it for the last 100, 200 years.
Mhm.
Don't check my history on that, okay? I could do the math, but I don't want to right now. I know.
It's
With
recent.
that being
Yeah.
said with that being said, like, the moms, the people who are about to have babies, they're gonna be with the food and they're gonna be with the kids, and so I just think that, like, they would have been waking up in the morning with the sun. They would have been outside a lot of the time because who wants to be in a stuffy old house that doesn't have air conditioning and fans, right? Like, you would have been outside a
Mhm.
lot. You would have been moving around with your kids. you would have been in tune with the seasons. You would have been eating more seasonally because we didn't have Amazon Prime trucks and like Costco, like we didn't have any of that. So you would have been eating more seasonally and you would have been going to sleep when it was dark because again, candles can only last so long, right? So you don't have a million candles and you don't have the candle power to stay up as late as you want. And so like our rhythms would have been a lot more aligned, which aligns your blood sugar, by the way. But like the moms would be with the food is really all I've got to tell you there. So anyone who's like primally, in the paleo days or whatever, like we would have been hunting and gathering and whatever. Yes, like probably the older woman would have, probably the kids would have, the bigger kids, but like the moms are with the little kids, the food is there. They're the ones making the food. They're the ones chewing on the like snacking, right? So I just don't think that even historically intermittent fasting has a lot to stand on. And I just think that again, like when we are the ones who are creating new life, like we're going to be the ones to be catered to, honestly. So like if someone has to go a little bit without food, it's going to be the dad and their bodies are made for that. They're able to handle it so much better. I'm not hearing the same stories of like, oh, I have all these hormone issues because my life is dysregulated. My husband's life is also dysregulated. He's more fine, right? Like he might have blood sugar
Yeah.
issues at 40. He might have heart issues. Like, yes, but like they usually have to work harder to do the wrong thing to have issues. Like their bodies were made in a more resilient way because they were made to be the protectors. They were made to be the providers. They were made to like go out and do the hard things in a different way. The women are absolutely like doing the hard things, like the different hard things, but they're with the food. That's really my thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There's just, I think a lot of people have questions about intermittent fasting because there is so much information about it right now. And it's talked a lot about, oh, this is the trick for balancing blood sugar, for helping mitochondria and all this. Clinically speaking, I have yet to see a woman who is intermittent fasting and who is having good ovulation and regular cycles particularly when she has PCOS. So yeah, I think that really just comes into the fact that breakfast is setting you up for the rest of your day. And if it's continually missed, then it's setting you up for even bigger issues with your hormones, your insulin, your thyroid, your cortisol, all these other hormones that you've been mentioning that have to do with reproduction that a lot of people don't associate with. A lot of times it's just talked about progesterone and estrogen. So, okay, Leisha, let's dive into what does a beautiful hormone supportive breakfast look like?
Okay, perfect. I do have a couple. Let me just like super quick because even as you're saying that, I'm like, I have a couple other thoughts on fasting.
Oh, please.
I want people to hear me say, I'm not saying no woman in her fertility years should ever fast at all. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like, is intermittent fasting the fix to your hormones? Usually not. I usually just absolutely same thing. Like clinically, I just don't see it. Women again and again get better when they're eating more. And I do see we can go too far with that where there's not enough windows between meals where you're eating, like you're eating just snacking all the time and like weight gain happens because you made changes too fast. Like things like that can happen. So it does need to still be a pretty like reasonable process. And, there could be a picture of like, okay, you've gotten really stable with your minerals and your blood sugar and you're eating really well throughout the day. And there's a point where maybe there could be some mitochondrial repair or some gut repair from having a window where you're not eating, but I'm never going to say it's 16 hours. Like maybe it's 12, right? Maybe it's like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., something like that, that is still like reasonable. So I just want to kind of throw that in there for anyone who's like, wait, but I saw some, results from this, or this is what I was thinking about. I just don't think it's the first thing to go to. I think it comes after stability and after fertility is restored. If there are maybe some other underlying health issues that you feel like you need a break from food to be able to heal like some gut issues. So I just wanted to start there, but let's dive
Yeah.
into both
Well,
of this.
okay. No, first I want to just have you speak on one more thing because, yes, okay, so intermittent fasting can be supportive in certain situations, but when you're saying, okay, intermittent fasting, when we're talking about ovulation and hormones and fertility, like it's not optimal. But then you mentioned like you still want to have some time in between meals. You still need that break in your digestive juices and in between meals. And I know that the listener could be thinking, well, wait a second, I don't need to be intermittent fasting, but that I do need a break in between meals. Like what what does that all mean? Can you just clarify what that looks like? Like if someone's
Yes.
thinking, I want to be balancing blood sugar, I want to be supporting hormones, is there kind of an ideal schedule that you would recommend that is hormone supportive and reasonable
Yes.
for someone to be
Yes. I
doing?
definitely don't want to make it confusing with what I just said.
Yeah, no.
And I don't like to be like super far on one side or the other because usually you're wrong if you're all the way on one side or the other. So that's kind of what I was trying to get to. So yeah, absolutely. I believe what I start my clients doing is I want them to be making sure they're not going more than about 4 hours without eating throughout the day. I say 3 to 4. Everybody truly is different. It depends how dysregulated your blood sugar is, depends how undernourished you are, depends on your symptoms. If I'm doing an across the board, I usually say between 3 and 4 hours, you need to be eating something. But I don't love just constantly eating throughout the day or eating like every 2 hours, unless truly, like, if your blood sugar is a huge, huge mess and you're just having these big drops, then like maybe you do need to for a little while. In general, around 3 to 4 hours is what I like to look at. So say, you're eating your real breakfast, 8:30 in the morning. Maybe your lunch used to be 2 p.m. That's too long. If your lunch is like 12:30, great. What I want to know is, how are you feeling in between? Are you great? You're not hungry. You're not snacking. You're not crashing. Everything's good. Great. Make it 4 hours. If you're like by 10:30, 11, I'm tired. I'm grabbing coffee. I'm looking for a donut. Eat
Hmm.
food, eat real food when you're having those cravings, because cravings are always telling you something. So it probably is telling you, and this is where we like really get into personalizing, but like probably telling you your breakfast wasn't quite right. If you're super crashy and hungry, say 2 to 3 hours later, probably your
Hmm.
breakfast needs to be bulked up a little bit. But so this is how you know if your breakfast is right and your lunch is right. You should be able to make it about 3 to 4 hours, feeling regular, don't need a snack, don't need coffee, just forget about food. That's how really you should feel over time when you get it more regulated. Like you're just not thinking about it. And then you start to get hungry, actually just hungry, not crashy, not exhausted. Like you're just hungry. 3 to 4 hours later, you're ready for another meal. That's what that usually looks like. So, what that typically looks like throughout the day is maybe you are having an early pre breakfast, real breakfast, 8 to 9 ish, and then lunch, 12 ish, 12 to 1. And then because usually dinner is going to be, unless you're like truly like 9, 1, 5, and that works for you, great. But a lot of us, it's a little more hectic than that. And so sometimes we do need an afternoon snack. And so I always just recommend like that's still going to be protein and carbs together. It's still going to be some sort of like whole real food. And then sometimes we need a bedtime snack. Sometimes we don't. So that's just kind of what that looks like. But again, like if you eat dinner at 5, you go to bed at 10, probably gonna need something in between then. And that's fine. Doesn't mean a late night binge session of ice cream necessarily, but it probably means like, something you can still be something you enjoy. It can still be kind of a treat, but you just need to be blood sugar aware with it. So that's what I say. About 3 to 4 hours throughout the day.
Yeah, I think that's really clear and easy to follow. And I'll add to that as well as, I work with people who will say, by PM or whenever I come home from work, I have headaches. I'm really not feeling good. And I eat a huge amount for dinner. And usually we can pinpoint earlier on in the day that one of those breaks was too long. Like either they're skipping breakfast, like we've talked about, or they, lunch at noon and then they haven't eaten yet. So, just to say for the person listening, like, even if you're having those kinds of symptoms later on in the day, it could be from something that happened earlier in the day.
Yeah, exactly what I said earlier, where it's like your dinner's too late, right? You're too late to be
Hmm.
starting your day at 5, 6 p.m. with the first real meal.
Hmm. Yes, exactly. Okay, so now how do you feel about jumping into what the
Breakfast.
hormone beautiful breakfast looks like?
Yes. Okay. And so I want to start with this. This is going to be personalized to you. It does not have to be, it can be something that you enjoy, something that you like. But what I look at, what I want to see when I'm starting breakfast for my clients and like helping them fix their breakfast is I want minimum 25 grams of protein. I like something solid. Okay. So you can get 25 grams of protein in a protein shake. You can get these numbers in a smoothie. Sorry, doesn't count for me. Not that it doesn't count, but like it's not going to be enough
Right.
to last you because a smoothie is really quickly digested. It's already pre-digested, as gross as that sounds, because it's just blended up, right? It doesn't
Mhm.
take as long to get into your bloodstream. And so it's still not going to be as stable for your blood sugar. It takes less time to go through your gut too. So it just doesn't take as long to absorb into your body. and it's not dense enough. So you can absolutely get 25 grams of protein, 40 grams of carbs in a smoothie and feel great about it. And it can be so good for you. It can be so healthy, so full of antioxidants and veggies and fruit and everything that I want you to have for breakfast. And you're still going to be crashing. So a smoothie can be a great afternoon snack where it's like 2 hours till dinner. Like, I love that. Do something like that. But for breakfast, it's not enough on a real regular day. It could be your pre breakfast if you want it to, but it needs to not be your real breakfast. I like, and even yogurt with like granola and fruit can hit those macros. For some of us, it's okay. And you make it to lunch just fine. For some of us, it's just not dense enough. It's kind of that same thing. It's just processes a little bit too quickly and your body is hungry a little bit soon. So what I like to see, what I see as like the best option is something like eggs and some sort of meat, whatever kind of meat you like, chicken, sausage, bacon, beef, whatever you want to have for breakfast. I like usually some combination of animal protein that is solid like that you have to sit there and chew. Some people, eggs aren't the thing. You need more of the meat then. So something really solid, like at least 25 grams of protein. And then I really do love to see, and this is again, does depend on your blood sugar, where you are. If you're eating nothing for breakfast, you're not going to jump to this right away. Go halfway, something like that, like work up to it. But I love like somewhere around 1 to 1.5 times carbs. Usually 1 to 1 ratio of carbs and protein isn't quite enough, to be honest. If I'm going to say 25 grams of protein, I really like about 40 grams of carbs for breakfast. And when I say carbs, I don't really mean like a donut or like a pastry or something like that. I'm okay with a little bit of bread if it's like sourdough or if it's like fresh milled flour bread or something like, especially the fresh milled flour bread is going to have more fiber, make it last a little bit longer in your system, or like a Ezekiel bread, something like that. But I don't really want that to be your only form of carbs. So my ideal would be more like eggs and sausage and potatoes. You could like make ahead a quiche and have some potatoes on the side. That's what I have done recently, is like make some extra breakfast potatoes and have them in the fridge, because you don't have time every single day to make an hour of breakfast. I know that. So make it work for you. But eggs, meat, potatoes, and then some fruit, where you're kind of like mixing your carbs with a little bit of fruit and a little bit of potatoes, or a little bit of grain and a little bit of fruit, something like that. It actually helps with the glucose uptake, because you have fructose and you have glucose, which makes your body, it kind of like gives your body a couple different steps in absorbing and keeping your blood sugar balanced. And then you've got that protein to back it up. So the carbs are the fast energy, the protein is the slow energy and the building blocks for other things in your body. And so having both of those is super important. Now, I don't talk about fat a lot when I'm talking about this, and there's a reason for that. When you're eating eggs in the morning, you're eating meat in the morning, you're getting plenty of fat. So I'm not here to tell you add extra fat typically to your breakfast, but it would be good to pay attention. So for me, like this morning, I made myself a scramble where I had eggs and sausage and I put mushrooms in it and something else. I can't remember. But then I put a little bit of, I don't know if you guys know the Boursin cheese, but it's like that it's like kind of like you put it on, I used to put it on crackers and I put it on everything. But when I do track my food here and there, sometimes I'm like, dang, that was a lot of fat. And the issue with that is if you have too much fat too consistently throughout your day, or like it's too stacked, it can actually make it so you're not absorbing your carbs quite as well. And that can mess with your blood sugar too. So just kind of like being a little bit moderate with your fat is really all I'm trying to say. So don't just think like, oh, I should just like put a bunch of oil in the pan or a bunch of butter in the pan, or like throw a bunch of cheese in my eggs too, because it does have some protein. But being a little more sparing with that is actually where I'm landing with myself and my clients, because I find that it's actually easy to have too much, especially when we're like, and throw an avocado on there. And like, then my piece of toast has butter too, or like cream cheese or something. So you just kind of need to watch the fat a little bit for the optimal breakfast. Now, with that being said, start where you are and make changes slowly. So if you're like, wow, that's a lot, like, I don't know where to start, like just start with whatever is easiest for you to start with next. If you're like, all I'm eating is a piece of toast with peanut butter for breakfast, okay, add protein, right? Where are you missing the biggest piece? Add protein. 2 eggs is only like 14 grams of protein, just so you guys know. It feels like 2 eggs, like great, got my protein. You didn't actually. That's why you have to add a little something extra. And so sometimes I do my protein drink and some eggs, if I haven't done it earlier or something like that. So there's plenty of ways you can do this, but my kind of general goal is real dense food, 25 minimum grams of protein, somewhere between 30 and 40 grams of carbs. And I usually see for me that lasts me easy 3 to 4 hours. I feel good. I don't have morning crashes. I don't even drink coffee typically, except for we have an espresso maker and I like to. So sometimes I make myself like a decaf, but like I have a business. I'm a mom. I homeschool. I do all the things too. I don't always go to bed on time, and I don't need coffee for my energy because I really do focus on blood sugar balance. And so that's kind of the main thing. If you want to link it, I have a breakfast guide. It's only $7 and it just like walks you through all of that and gives you some examples and things like that if you want it on paper. So I can link that because I do think it's just the best place to start.
Great. Yes, absolutely. I want to be sure to have that link for people because I think a lot of times getting a good source of protein in, like as you were saying, eggs actually are not like super dense in protein. And so if you are having two eggs then and you don't want more, it's like, well, what else can I add into breakfast? So having some examples I think would be really helpful for people.
Yeah. And I think that's where the smoothie can come in or the yogurt can come in. It just can't be like the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's a really good starting off place for people, having those numbers: 25 grams of protein, at least 30 grams of carbs, and knowing that even if they're not used to having a big breakfast, that it's about at least increasing that a little bit as your body is more comfortable and gets hungry more often, and getting to a place where you're able to eat that level of a breakfast, because then you're going to see all of these benefits with your hormones, your thyroid, and your ovulation through
Yeah.
time.
Absolutely. I do have one other resource that I just think is really fun and I've
Please.
gotten like really honestly the best feedback on this, but I created, it's like a chat GPT tracker and I call it the Nourish Tracker. And I put in all of this info so you can give it your breakfast. You can say, I ate this and it'll say, great job. It'll be nice to you, I promise. It'll say, great job. And you should add an apple next time. Great job. And listen, Leisha, you put a little too much fat on that breakfast. That's what it tells me. And so I love that because, again, these high achieving, busy women, like we often need two things. We need it to be easy. I hate tracking in my Fitness Pal or Chronometer for several reasons, because it's a pain. Also because it brings back my 22-year-old self who was trying to eat like 1,200 calories a day before my wedding to lose weight. I was
Right.
really unhappy about that in that season of life. And so the Nourish
Yeah.
Tracker is great because you can literally just tell it, hey, I ate this. You don't have to measure anything. And it'll just estimate for you. It's not going to be super exact, but it's going to give you enough. And it's going to say, hey, this is what you could do next time. And then you just work on breakfast, or you can work on lunch, or you can put in your whole day of food, whatever you want, and you'll get feedback in the moment. So that's another resource that I have that would be a great place to start if you're like, I just want kind of like that. I want some reassurance and feedback throughout the day, or I want it to tell me, listen, you really did kind of mess up here with your lunch. Like that's why you feel hangry and angry and you're yelling at everyone at 5 p.m. It's because of your lunch. And then you're like, "Oh, it's not because I'm a bad person. It's just because of my lunch," right? Which is true.
Right. That, and it's so in the moment, it's hard to realize that. So I love that. Please send the link to that as well. I will have those in the show notes for people because those sound really valuable. Thank you so much for the work that you do, Leisha, and your expertise, and for really laying this out very simply, but in a powerful way that lets people know the importance of breakfast, how it sets them up for hormones, and then also how to strategically set up their breakfast. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. This was fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just so happy to have you here. Thank you for being here in the PCOS Lab today. If you are feeling frustrated, remember, your body, it's not broken. We just need to find the missing clues and fit together the right data points. When you are ready to look at those clues, head to drangelapotter.com/start. There, you can choose the exact next step you are ready for, whether that's my ovulation assessment or applying for an audit call with me. Either path gives you the personalized clarity you need to stop guessing and start creating a predictable cycle. That's drangelapotter.com/start. Keep looking at the biology, be gentle with your system, and I'll see you next time in the lab.